Islam, Moors? Islam. How's everyone on the holy night? Praise Allah. Y'all sound tired. Y'all all right? All right. I check on my Moorish family. Islam. I rise, giving all praises to Allah, the Father of the universe, cherisher and sustainer of all the boundless universes. We extend the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the founder, the Moorish Science Temple of America. Islam? Islam. We extend high honors as well to his forerunner, the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, the founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, who did indeed warn and stir up the nations. Islam? Islam. We extend high honors as well to the Moorish flag, the red flag with the green 5-pointed star in the center. These 5 points represent love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. These are the 5 highest principles known to man. Islam? Islam. We extend high honors as well to the American flag, also known as the Stars and Stripes. This flag exists as a constant reminder that the European nations owe you, the Moors, with compound interest. Islam? Islam. Giving high honors to the noble Sheik staff, noble Vanguard staff who keep the peace. And we extend high honors to you, the Eels and Bays, for without you, there is no Moorish movement. Islam? Islam. How are the Moors once again? Islam. Praise Allah. All praise to Allah. Tonight, for those of you who have your Holy Quran, the Moorish Science Temple of America, I'd like to demonstrate from chapter 7 of this record, the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And what is this record that we're about to demonstrate from? Again, that's chapter 7. But this record says, of itself, Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, divinely prepared by the noble prophet Drew Ali, by the guiding of his Father God Allah, the great God of the universe, to redeem man from his sinful and fallen stage of humanity back to the highest plane of life with his Father God Allah. Islam. It says, know thyself and Allah. This is on the inverse cover. I have an older copy, so I'm drawing from my record, my reading. Don't worry. We're going to get you there. We're going to get you there. Know thyself and Allah, the genealogy of Jesus, and it has Jesus in quotation marks. Okay? Because again, when we say Jesus, ones tend to, mistake the fact that we think they think we're talking about 2,000 years ago. Right. And that couldn't be anything further from the truth. Okay? Because even according to that story, that one said, the works that I do, you would do even greater. Islam? All right? It says the life and works of Jesus in India, Europe and Africa, in the land of Egypt. Islam? On the inside of the back cover, again, we're going to get y'all there, don't worry. The fallen sons and daughters of the Asiatic nation of North America need to learn to love instead of hate, and to know of their higher and lower self. This is the uniting of the Holy Quran of Mecca for the teaching and instructing of all Moorish Americans, etc. Islam? Back cover should have that. The Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, know yourself and your Father God Allah, that you may learn to love instead of hate. Every man needs to worship under his own vine and fig tree, the uniting of Asia. Islam? All right? So that's the essence of this record we're about to go into. All right? Because again, you must know, the power of what will return to you. Okay? Because there was a reason why the Quran of Mecca was returned to the Arabians. Islam? Though they knew their nationality, they forgot the first aspect of the divine creed. Right? Which was there is no God but Allah, which is the universal divine creed. Islam? But they lost their way in that respect. Okay? So a prophet had to come to them to remind them what they were called to do, of the work that they were called to do. Islam? All right? All through the the Israelite history, the Israelite patriarchs, our ancient Israelite forefathers, demonstrating various different degrees and through traveling through different lands and living amongst different people, they had a tendency to pick up the bad habits and customs of those peoples. Islam? Some similar to us nowadays, we of the holy and divine seed have lived around ones of foreign nations for so long, we've picked up their customs. Islam? We lived amongst people who were leprous of skin for so long, we've become leprous of the mind. That's right. Islam? Leprosy is not just a skin disorder. It can also affect your brain and spinal cord. All right? This is the condition now of ones that we know as the Negro pen. Y'all heard that word before? Yeah, social media. They do that kind of stuff. What is a Negro pen? Looks like an Asiatic, right? But when you ask his position or her position on any particular matter, they will always side with the European. Islam? All right? So this is what our prophet came to unplug us from. Okay? Because what makes us any different that if we've fallen off and lost our way from the straight and narrow path, that we can't have a prophet to come to us to raise us up in these shores here. That's right. No different. It's the same Allah. And don't let the Arabs give you that complex that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was the last prophet.
That's right.
Islam? Because in the language that was revealed in, it doesn't use the word last, it uses the word seal. All right? Anybody has any questions about that, we can get into that later too. All right? All right. Chapter 7 is entitled The Friendship of Jesus and Lamaze. Jesus explains to Lamaze the meaning of truth. Islam, Morris?
Islam.
Instruction 1, or verse 1, says, among the priests of Jagannath was one who loved the Jewish boy. Lamaze Brahmas was the name by which the priest was known. One day as Jesus and Lamaze walked alone in Plaza Jagannath, Lamaze said, my Jewish master, what is truth? Now listen to the dialogue. See, Prophet Noble Trial is not just giving you this for some story of long ago.
Right.
There's degrees of understanding in here for you. Islam? All right? So it says, my Jewish master, what is truth? And Jesus said, truth is the only thing that changes not. It says, other is falsehood. And falsehood, the other is falsehood. And falsehood is that which seems to be. Now truth is aught and has no cause. And yet it is the cause of everything. And aught just means all, complete. It says falsehood is naught, meaning nothing. And yet is the manifest of right. Whatever has been made will be unmade. That which begins must end. All things that can be seen by human eyes are manifests of aught, are naught, and so must pass away. And what does that mean? Anything that you see with your physical eyes, all right, is created. It is not to worship it. It's not the creator, it's created. Islam? All right, moving forward. It says, let's go to 8. Let's go to verse 9. The things we see are but reflexes just appearing, while the ethers vibrate so and so, and when conditions change, they disappear. The holy breath is truth, is that which was and is and evermore shall be. It cannot change nor pass away. Islam, Morris? Now that's called an answer. That when you know your degrees, right, and when you've studied yourself, all right, and all things that you indeed study must indeed tie back to you, right? There's anything that you're involved in, anything you're studying in, and it doesn't connect to you, it's worthless. Islam, Morris? All right? So you have to align yourself, all right, and be studied study to the point where you make yourself perfect along all lines of procedure and subjects, to the point when someone asks you a question, you can respond in its fullness.
Exactly.
Not speak from generalities. General opinions which offer no proof of truth. Islam, Morris? Let's move forward. It says, let's go to 10. The holy breath is truth. I said that one. Let's go to 11. Lamaze said, you answer well. He had to bear witness, right? You answer well. Now what is man? And Jesus said, man is the truth and falsehood strangely mixed. 13. Man is the breath made flesh. So truth and falsehood are conjoined in him, and then they strive, and naught goes down, and man as truth abides. Islam, Morris? In Arabic, there's a word called jihad, right? What does the word jihad mean? What will CNN tell you that the word jihad means?
It's when they killing.
When they're killing folks.
Yeah.
Holy war.
Yeah.
Islam, but they don't tell you the battlefield upon which the holy war is taking place. Islam, the jihad is taking place is within yourself.
That's right.
Because I don't care if you're Moorish American, I don't care if you're Chinese American, I don't care if you're Hindu American, I don't care if you're Arabian in Arabia, I don't care what you are, you have a higher and lower self. All of us have that battle and wage that war. And if you don't have the tools, right, to learn your higher self, you're not even aware the higher self is there, right? So your natural inclination or your natural nature, which is Islam, okay? Islam is not a religion to be practiced.
Right.
Islam means peace. Islam can also mean tranquility. Islam can also mean harmony. Islam can also mean balance.
Right.
There's not a person on earth, if he's sane or she's sane, that's not seeking harmony, peace, tranquility, or balance. Islam? All right, and that being the case, then that means that your natural nature makes you a Muslim.
That's right.
Islam? Right? So you must indeed, let me ask you this, can the higher self pass away?
No.
Why? Come on now, make Jesus proud. Answer well, y'all. Islam, nobody. Islam. And according to the record, in the 101s it says, because it is Allah and man. Islam. So the Allah that is in you is not measured up by time. It's eternal. You know how like when things get stressful for you, and you just if you're in tune with this level of thought, it's all chaotic on the outside of you, right? So what you do, you shut it down, close your eyes, and you go into that universe. You go internal, and you start to travel. Now, are there any bounds when you close those eyes and go inside? Is there a limit? No. And that travel only ends when you decide to open your eyes and come back and reincarnate back into this. Islam? Right? So there's an internal aspect to yourself. In order to answer with complete truth, you have to be in tune with that. And in fact, right, you have to get to the point where you can push your lower self aside. Right? Because as long as you're in this plane, you need a lower self. It's part of it. This is a battlefield down here. You need that. Brothers, we know, like, when you're changing that tire, we went through that last week, didn't we, brothers? I got, close the meeting out, and the tire was flat as I don't know what. I just got finished demonstrating the Holy Covenant. When your brother's in adversity, assist them, and go outside as a flat tire, and the brothers came through and just, But when you're changing that tire, there's always that one lug that won't come off, right? And you're trying to use your higher self, and, and it won't come off, but you got to summon. It's there for you if you're in control of it. Now, if you're not in control of it, you become a raving beast. Traveling to and fro on the earth, seeking whom you may devour. Islam? Let's move forward. Any questions at this point? All's well? All right. It says 14. This is a very important one. This takes me further into my measure later. Again, Lamas asked, what do you say of power? Pay attention to the answer. And Jesus said, it is a manifest. It is the result of force. It is but naught. It is illusion, nothing more. Force changes not, but powers change as the ethers change. Force is the will of Allah and is omnipotent, and power is that will and manifest, directed by the holy breath. There is a power in the winds, a power in the waves, a power in the lightning stroke, a power in the human arm, a power in the eye. Ethers cause these powers to be, and thought of Elohim, of angel, man, or other thinking things directs the force. When it has done its work, the power is no more. Islam? When you speak to our people out here, in the midst of all the things, the police shootings, you name it, of what level of savagery you want to address, what's going on amongst our people nowadays. They say, nothing is needed amongst us more than power. We need power. Islam. Right? A term was even coined, which is not new, which we'll get into. Black power. Heard this term? And one of the icons for black power, the symbols for black power, is the clenched fist. Islam? Right? Problem with power is that if you don't know the essence of power, or what gives birth to power, when it's your time to wield it, you won't wield it for long. Right? Anybody ever seen a person that lucked up on somebody? Hit the lottery, inheritance, anything? All right? And then after a while you look and they don't have the money anymore? They blew it. Because they didn't have the... Sister, you need some water? Yes. One of the brothers, come on. Hey. If you look... if you look, they didn't understand the formula or the principles behind. Maybe somebody go to the store. Somebody needs the finance, I get to it. And because they didn't have the formula for finance, they lost it quickly. Islam, it's the same thing with power, right? There's a period of time, okay, your forefathers at one point were the masters of all they surveyed. Whatever they looked at, they ruled, okay? How did the Moors lose power? Anybody know? What does history tell us? I know I got some masters in the room, don't blow. I'm going somewhere. I see you working, brother. Come on, get it up. How did the Moors lose power? The Moors were the founders of mathematics, astronomy, sailed 7 seas, did all this good stuff, right? How did they lose power? Second, by who? By the European? Okay.
Oh, excuse me.
No, all's well. All's well. All's well. So, it was taken by him. Now, let's use the time period of 711 AD to 1492. Okay, which is the popular, the convenient period of what they say Moorish history. What state was the European in 711, between 711 and 1492? No, but what I'm saying is, what condition was he in?
Dark Ages.
Dark Ages. Explain that more about this. What was his mentality and what he demonstrated culture or cultivation situation?
It would be actually the opposite of that.
Okay, so.
So, illiterate,
Mm,
filthy,
mm-hmm,
sickness,
mm-hmm.
begrudging.
Okay. Now, thank you. Right? Now, that being the case, how is it, or how could it be that one in that state could overthrow the ones who had all this culture, civilization, and science? How?
Deception, lies, cheating, stealing, killing.
But if you're the man, Brother Jabbar, could you hand me the first painting, please? You know, sometimes we need to see. You know, you just lift it here. Thank you, Lord. So what I'm saying is that, so one in such a state, we're talking about, the Europeans, a group of European barbarians that couldn't read, couldn't write, didn't bathe because it had been outlawed by the Catholic Church because they said there was negative spirits in the water. Okay? They overthrew this brother.
With money.
Does that make sense? Look at him. It's one of your forefathers, right? So a group of beasts, and this is what history calls it. I'm not being, even in the language, in Hebrew, there's the word behemoth. And behemoth, which they have in English as behemoth, right? These beasts overthrew these scientists, right? It's not possible, right? You know who overthrew the Moors?
The Moors.
The Moors.
We overthrew ourselves.
We defeated ourselves. Thank you.
Love.
See, that's a part of the mentality too, why we have a hard time finding ourselves rising up out of the situation we find ourselves in. Because we, through victim mentality, right, and through reverse worship, right, because nobody would say right now that's proud of himself. Quite sure there's a few, leprosy of mind, that would overtly say that they worship the European. They're out there, trust me. But generally, when you talk to most of our people, nah, it's not whatever. I don't do the whole European thing. But then, well, how did we get in the condition of winning? Well, we were in Africa, and they ran and grabbed us and threw us on some ships and brought us over here and put us in chains. And really, but you were the master of everything, but one who thought the earth was flat. And they bringing that back too. Flat earth theory. We're not going there tonight. We're not doing that. But it's out there, right? Because they brought the whole Dark Age vibe. It's back. The only thing that makes it different now is you have Dark Ages with technology. Right? But the point is that you didn't get overthrown by some outsiders. We overthrew ourselves. More start plotting on each other. Aligning with adversaries, open enemies against your brother. Islam? We even took certain ones in and taught them the martial arts. Where you think El Cid came from. He was a European mercenary. For those who take notes, write it down, research it. All right? But the point is that you must get that mentality out, and it's because of us waging war within ourselves and losing that war and falling to our lower self towards the end of the empire, all right, that it even became possible for someone on the, the low cultivation level that the European was on to overthrow us.
That's right.
Islam wars,
Islam.
right? Says 19. Again, Lamas asked of understanding, what have you to say? And Jesus said, it is the rock upon which man builds himself. It is the gnosis of the alt and of the naught, of falsehood and of truth. 21. It is the knowledge of the lower self, the sensing of the powers of man himself. Again, Lamas asked, of wisdom, what have you to say? And Jesus said, it is the consciousness that man is aught, that Allah and man are one. So in the Moorish American concept or form of cosmology, we don't view the Creator as outside of ourselves.
Islam. That's right.
Okay? That's not, we don't do the in heaven thing. You know, because we're clear that being on earth, we are in heaven.
That's right.
Islam?
Islam.
All right? 24. That naught is naught, that power is but illusion, that heaven and earth and hell are not above, around, below, but in, which in the light of aught becomes naught, and Allah is all. Islam Moors? 25. Lamaz asked, pray, what is faith? And Jesus said, this is our definition of faith. You must retain the power to define. This is your definition. And Jesus said, faith is the surety of the omnipotence of Allah and man. The certainty that man will reach deific life. Meaning that it's of a surety that you will become God. Islam? All right. 27. Salvation is a ladder reaching from the heart of men to the heart of Allah. It has 3 steps. Belief is first, and this is what man thinks perhaps is truth. And faith is next, and this is what man knows is truth. Fruition is the last, and this is man himself, the truth. Belief is lost in faith, and in fruition faith is lost. And man is saved when he has reached deific life, when he and Allah are one. Islam Moors? Surely Allah speaks the truth to his holy divine prophet, Prophet Noble Dry Islam. All right? So, in that little, 3-step ladder, where it talks belief, faith, and fruition, we covered a couple weeks ago how our people have been trapped in a stage of belief. Right? So they're stuck in a stage of what they think might be true. So they don't really have any knowledge. Right? They haven't done the particular study. Right? And I'm saying that not on a high camel. I'm saying that I was once there. I'm saying that we all were once there. Islam? But the key is that there's nothing wrong with belief, right? Because you have to start there, right? In fact, there's no more powerful thing on earth than belief, right? Because belief is the essence of what you build your faith and fruition in. Can't be God if you didn't want to believe in something, right? It's even said that if you haven't found something to believe in, basically like you haven't found anything to live for, that you haven't found anything to die for, right? But the essence of that is belief. Islam, all right? Now when you put a little research in it on what your belief in, now you can figure out if that belief has any substance or not, right? That point is called faith to the Moors, right? So that eliminates the concept of what they call blind faith to us. We don't do blind faith, right? In other words, I use the example all the time. If my tank is full when I'm driving, I know I can drive all around Atlanta with no problem for the most part, right? But if it's like it's a breath before empty, I can make it, right? That's called belief. You think that might perhaps be true, and you might make it, or you might not, right? But if you filled it all the way up, you can put some faith in it. Islam, all right? And that's the essence of that word faith, Islam. So now, I want to go to Moorish literature on the Prophet Noble Dry. I'm drawing heavily on the Prophet because, again, I don't know. I know we have some visitors. Welcome. All right. I'm not sure, how you found the Moorish Science Temple of Farrakhan. I'm not sure how you found this temple. You all could be Moorish masters sitting in those robes right there. I don't know. So I can't assume, right? And in the process of not assuming, I got to make sure, we establish who Prophet Noble Dry is. Okay? Because, if you go on the internet, I challenge one, but the Prophet Noble Dry is not to be found on the internet. He's not there. You'll hear his name, right? But you can't get the essence, of what he conveyed over the internet in a virtual realm. You can't get it. You have to come to the temples. It's the duty of the Grand Sheiks, the governors of the temples, to make sure that everything is based upon the foundation of Prophet Noble Dry. Islam? All right? Because again, right, if we are a nation of people, which indeed we are in the sense of being a body politic, right? A group of people, civil society makes its own laws and rules, right? To coordinate with the outer, broader society. That's not. That being the case, we have to have a foundation that goes back to our founder. Okay? Even the European nations, the Supreme Court, how do they interpret law? That's the job of the judiciary, right, on that level, is to interpret law, right? How do they interpret law? What is their basis for their interpretation of law? Are they coming out, are they leaning to their own understanding? What are they using?
Constitution.
Islam. Why, Sheik?
From their forefathers.
Islam.
Their moms.
Because that was their charter. That was the original charter of this land, right? To the point where they have to interpret things in the modern day based on the understanding of it in their time. Islam wars? All right? So let's draw from the industrious acts of the Muslims in Moorish literature. Because in order to do the works of your forefathers, you must indeed know what they have done. Islam?
Islam.
The industrious acts of the Muslims by Prophet Noble Jurali. It says the industrious acts of the Muslims of Northwest and Southwest Africa. All right? And you'll notice in your Holy Quran and More Science Simple of America, on the very first page, the Prophet, the very first page in the Holy Quran and More Science Simple of America, the Prophet touches on this area. But he unfolds it further in this. Just read that real quick, just so once I have that, and so it'll be in the record. Right? On the page it says, know thyself and thy Father God Allah in the Holy Quran. Underneath where it says, by the Prophet Noble Jurali, there's a small paragraph. That paragraph says, the industrious acts of the Muslims of Northwest and Southwest Africa. These are the Moabites, Hamathites, Canaanites, who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. In latter years, they formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called this day Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, etc. Islam? Right? So that's the basis for this article the Prophet is about to go into. Right? Our Prophet instructs us, these are the Moabites, Hamathites, Canaanites, who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission of the pharaohs of Egypt, notice that's plural, of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. In latter years, they formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called this day Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, Tripoli, etc. They originated the beauties of the Alhambra, and to an unpracticed eye, the light relives and fanciful arabesques which cover the walls of the Alhambra appear to have been sculptured by hand. Real quick, what is the Alhambra? Anyone know? The Alhambra was a fortress, right, found in Granada, Spain, okay, in 1492, all right? The Alhambra Palace is considered by many, which is arguable, to be the finest example of Moorish architecture. Islam, I say it's arguable because if you go into historical records and the chronologies, you'll see other buildings that were destroyed, right, by the European nations, because again, them coming in and not having appreciation for this level of, culture, they saw it and just destroyed it. Islam, all right? So research the Alhambra with a minute and patient labor and inexhaustible variety of detail, yet a general uniformity and harmony of design truly astonishing. And this may especially be said of the vaults and cupolas, which are wrought like honeycombs or frostwork, with stalactites and pendants which confound the beholder with the seeming intricacy of their patterns. The astonishment ceases, however, when it is discovered that this is all stucco work, plates and plasters of Paris cast in molds and skillfully joined so as to form patterns of every size and form. This mode of disappearing walls with arabesques and stuccoing the vaults with grotto work was invented in Damascus and highly improved by the Moors in Morocco, to whom Saracenic architecture owes its most graceful and fanciful details. Who are the Saracens? Moors, Easterners, right? Ones will say, the descendants of Sarah. Others will say, in the doctrines of discovery, to codify, who the Roman Catholic Church or the Roman Empire was attacking, they would put Saracen sometimes instead of Moor. But it's talking about these same ones from the East. Islam? It says, the process by which all this fairy tracery was produced was ingeniously simple. The walls in their naked state were divided off by lines crossing at right angles, such as artists used in copying a picture. Over these were drawn a succession of interesting regiments of circles. By the aid of these, the artists could work with celerity and certainty and form mere intersection of their plane and curved lines arose from the interminable variety of patterns and the general uniformity of their character. Much gilding was used in the stucco work, especially of the cupolas and the intercessors, were delicately penciled with the brilliant colors such as vermilion and lapis lazuli laid on the whites of eggs. Islam? So if you anyone ever seen the mosaics, the mosaic tile work that the ancient Moors have done, if you know what you're looking at, all this was mathematically designed. There's like mathematical formulas that you have to comprehend in order to do that. They didn't just pick up a paintbrush and start painting. It's all mathematics, and they've run it, and there's something known as the golden mean or the golden ratio, whether it's the pyramids of Giza, the Alhambra, the Temple of the Sun and Moon in Mexico, whatever it is, or whether it's the human body, right? The length from your elbow to your fingertip, or the length from your nose to your lower lip, right? It's all based on the same mathematical formula known as the golden mean or the golden ratio. And the Alhambra, tiles, palette, the palette, all of that is based off that same formula. Islam, which means all the Asiatic nations around the world. You okay, sister? Okay. Which means all the Asiatic nations around the world were working off the same mathematic principles. Now go figure, you figure that out how they pulled that off without the internet. Islam? All right, moving forward. The primitive colors alone were used, says Ford, by the Egyptians, Greeks, and Arabs in the early period of art, and they prevailed in the Alhambra, wherever the artist has been Arabic or Moorish. It is remarkable how much of their original brilliancy remains after the lapse of several centuries. The lower part of these walls and the saloons, to the height of several feet, is encrusted with glazed tiles joined like the plates of stucco work so as to form various patterns. On some of these are emblazoned the escutcheons of the Muslim kings traversed with the band and a motto. So, prophets demonstrating the greed, like, example. Okay? This right here is known as Ouroboros. When you get to a certain degree of Freemasonry, you'll find this term. And it's the term, the emblem is the snake with its tail in its mouth, right? Any master who can take the snake and put its tail in his mouth symbolically or emblematically, all right, is a master that can control chaos, right? And this Ordo ad chaos is order out of chaos. Because that's what the master is supposed to be able to do. In a chaotic realm, he or she is supposed to be able to institute order. Islam, this Ordo ad chaos is known as a motto. Masonic. Okay? All sigils, it's another word. All sigils have a motto underneath. Okay? If you look up, anybody ever looked at the state seal of Georgia? Sounds like the three pillars, and it's like wisdom, this and that. Okay? But it uses those three principles mentioned as its own motto. Okay? Where they got that from your ancient Moorish Muslim forefathers. Okay? Because you look and then you see something that looks like this. Okay? which in Egypt they call this a via the French, a cartouche. Okay? And in a cartouche, they would put the name of the god inside the cartouche. So in Egypt, this would be vertically. Okay? And then I'm putting it in English for comprehension purposes. Okay? Or they do it, you have Ra. Alright? But the point is, the ancient Muslims, the ancient Moorish Muslims, brought that from the ancient realms back into the era time known as, the Moorish Spain period. Okay? Prophet Noble Drew Ali just gave you all of that by mentioning the word motto there. See? So by mentioning one word, he gave you a degree of study. Right? And this is what Moors miss about the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, is that he never just mentions anything. If you use the word, there's a degree of unfoldment there. Islam? Right? Let's move forward. It says, these glazed tiles, azulijas in Spanish, azulija in Arabic, are of Oriental origin. That word Oriental does not mean Chinese. It means from the East, Orient. Okay? Their coolness, cleanliness, and freedom from vermin render them admirably fitted in the sultry climates for paving halls and fountains, encrusting bathrooms, and lining the walls of chambers. Ford is inclined to give them great antiquity. From their prevailing colors, sapphire and blue, he deduces that they may have formed the kind of pavement alluded to in the sacred scriptures. Quote, there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, unquote. And that's coming from Exodus chapter 24, verse 10. And again, quote, behold, I will lay thy stones with the fairy colors and lay their foundations with sapphires, unquote. And that's from Isaiah chapter 4, verse 2. So for ones to think that, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali didn't demonstrate Israelite degrees, yes he did. Islam, because all of this is one genealogy. Can't break us apart. Islam, right, says these glazed or porcelain tiles were introduced into Spain at an early date by the Muslims. Some are to be seen among the Moorish ruins, have been there upwards of 8 centuries. Manufacturers of them still exist in the peninsula, and they are much used in the Spanish houses, especially in the southern provinces, for paving and lining the summer apartments. The Spaniards introduced them into the Netherlands, where they have possession of that country. The people of Holland adopted them with avidity as wonderfully suited to their passion for household cleanliness. And thus these Oriental inventions, the azulijas of the Spanish, the azulija of the Arabs, have come to be commonly known as Dutch tiles by Professor Drew, the Egyptian adept. Islam, right? So even in that, the Prophet's giving, an advancement of history showing how our culture and the things that we held in our civilization moved through the European nations. So he mentioned the Moors, he mentions the Spaniards. The Moors lost the war to the Spaniards. Islam, he mentioned the Dutch, okay? So if the English, we had been trading with since the 1600s, right? They were trying to figure out what the Spaniards had figured out and knew from living amongst us, because the Spaniards lived with us for 781 years. All right, so for all intents and purposes, the Spaniards of that time were basically Moors, right, who overthrown their fathers, right? English, right, who were, we call them Europeans, but those islands are not connected to Europe, right? But the point is they were, disconnected from that, other than seeing Moors or Turks in trading periods during what they call the Elizabethan era, during when Queen Elizabeth was, queen there in the 1600s, right? But over in, the Netherlands and Holland and so on and so forth, the Moors have been trading back and forth there, and those Europeans end up picking up the legal systems of the Moors, okay? Which again, I wish you all would take notes, because this is some good history. It would really help your studies. But one named Hugo Grotius, okay? What you now know as international law. What you now know as international law was unfolded by this one named Hugo Grotius, who had been studying the works of the Moors. Okay? You'll notice any study of international law right now, there's a book called
She was about
Oh, no, it's okay. I got it. Golden mean, golden ratio. Got it?
Yeah.
Golden ratio. Okay. That's why I didn't erase the whole thing. Okay. There's a book called International Law. By a European named Lasse Oppenheim. Okay. He was a Jew, right? And why is it historically that the Europeans look up to the Jews? I'm talking about the pale Jews. We don't really identify with that word. But why does the European look up to them? Why does the United States of America give the state of Israel billions of dollars per year to make sure their existence is maintained? Why? Why do they need the Jews so bad? Yeah, they got their money. I have to agree with you there. But it's more along the lines of the influence of culture and civilization, because those ones that you call Jews at one point were your servants. These ones at one point were your slaves. They know your culture very well. The thing that they've created that they call Judaism is bits and pieces of them breaking your culture apart, and that which they can understand and demonstrating it for themselves, right? But it's something that Brother Sareem and I talk about quite often, is the fact that they couldn't pronounce all of our tones and vibrations. They couldn't pronounce all of the words. You ever see Brother Akhenaten, and Europeans? How are you? What's your name? Akhenaten. Say it again. Akhenaten. Akhenaten, right? No. He either through willful disobedience, right, or outright ignorance, or the inability physiologically to pronounce it, can't pronounce it. So what they do is they'll change the language. In other words, we have a forefather named Ibn Rushd. Okay? Ibn Rushd is short for the word Rashid. It means director, one who directs. Right? But the Europeans couldn't pronounce that, so they called him Averroes. Y'all tell me how they got Averroes out of Ibn Rushd. Okay? Anyway, the Jew is kind of like the interface between the European and us, the Gentile European, and our ancient cultures. Okay? So they need him to decode and to interpret certain things. And specific groups of Jews actually have our blood in them. Namely the Sephardim. Right? The Sephardim, these were the ones from Spain. You don't live amongst the people for 781 years and don't mix with them. Okay? Excuse me. So these ones had our blood in them. You even see certain, pale Jews. They're pale of skin, but they have woolly hair, just like ours. Some of them had that rhythm in the walk, like we do. Right? Trying to be brothers, right? Right? But I'd like to draw something really quick. Okay? Because, I'm not a fire and brimstone type person, and I'm not a doomsday person. I don't really do that, because I know our people don't know how to handle panic. We don't. You have to be careful how you tell our people stuff. Riots have been started by words. To the point where, again, there was no internet back in the 60s, right? But when Dr. King got killed in '68, correct? Right? When word went out that they killed our brother, what happened? Whole country fell out. Islam. Now the European, they lost the country at that point. How many cities it was? Something upwards. It was more than 12. Major cities on fire at one time. Okay? During that period of time, the European didn't have enough space to lock you all up. They didn't have enough jails. Didn't, and they didn't understand totally. Like, they knew historically, they brutalized us. But the actual breakdown of what set it off and why then. You see what I'm saying? And why certain major cities went up in flames and others didn't. Right? So they actually, initiated a particular study, and it's known as the U.S. Riot Commission Report. And on the cover it says, what happened? Why did it happen? What can be done? The report of the National Advisory Commission on Civil Disorders. Right? It's the actual book here. So this is Congress's independent study on what happened. Okay? And in order to do that, they had to study you. They had to put us under a microscope and really get into and delineate what our struggles were, who our leaders were, you know what I'm saying? Who the hand-picked leaders were, because they picked a lot of our leaders. And the ones that weren't hand-picked, how did they come up? Especially if they didn't have the education. You know, it is said, you know, Moors come in all kind of clans and tribes. There's one tribe of Moors known as the Blackstone Rangers. Brother Jeff Fort, also known as Chief Malik. It is said that this brother, who wasn't really, if I can say, if I'm permitted to say, as literate, he wasn't as well read. It is said that our brother organized 21 separate gangs in Chicago, right? And had a total of 50,000 people under his command. He didn't come through a system that terrifies Europeans. Because how are we able to do that? You know, it said that, y'all heard of something, charisma, right? Look up charisma and see how it's defined. Most dictionaries will say that charisma is a divine gift and cannot be taught. There's some of us that come here that have that thing. You can't define it. You can't put it in you can't circumscribe it. You can't. There's some people that, for whatever reason, when they get up and speak, people listen to them. Malcolm was one of those. Islam, I'll give you an even better. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad, who, by speaker's standards, was not the strongest speaker. Right? He wasn't the supreme orator. He wasn't that guy. But what he had to say, and the time he had to say it in the face of what he was standing up against, is what made him who he was, and why doctors and lawyers came to listen to him. Because even though they were professionals, they didn't have the heart to say what he was saying about these Europeans. Right. Islam, Prophet Noble Drali was definitely one in the 20s. Talking about, I'm not Negro, black, colored, Ethiopian. Don't call me none of that. We Moorish Americans to stand on that and raise a nation of people in Chicago. Marcus Garvey. Islam? All right? But I'm going to draw for a section in this book. It's entitled Old Wine in New Bottles. Where have you heard that phrase before? So the European has degrees. See? They're not just in power ruling. You don't get to just be in power without having degrees. Islam? Every European that's in power has a headdress like I'm wearing somewhere in this closet. He's only allowed to wear it during certain times. Right? They put jewels all over it.
Right.
Name it after Moorish and Egyptian names. Medina Shrine, Mecca Shrine, El Bay Shrine. Islam? They sew the tassel to the side. Wow. They lock it down right here. What does that represent? 33 degrees. Right? Now 33 out of 360 degrees is not much. It's not much. But it's enough to run a government. Islam? Your forefathers gave you 360, right? But because we want to be Negroes, blacks, coloreds, and African Americans, and 2 continents, and all this type of stuff, we can't run a government. We can only be ruled over. Islam? Old wine and new skins. That's a phrase coming from the brother Jesus. It's also a phrase demonstrated by the Prophet Noble Drali. He says he will not put old wine in new skins, for it surely will burst them. Islam? All right? We're going forward. It says, this is page 234 in this Riot Commission report. It says, what is new about black power is phraseology rather than substance. You can stop right there. They know it's a game. And this was in the 60s. And here we are, 2017, cats still running around talking about black power. It says black consciousness has roots in the organization of Negro churches and mutual benefit societies. We covered that last week and I think the week before. Mutual, for those who don't know, write that down. Mutual benefit society, as well as fraternal benefit societies. So this is going back to the time of the 20s when, your Prince Hall Masonic groups popped up, your Eastern Stars popped up, your Boulay, all these various different, there's all the Greek letter fraternities, so on and so forth, right? Mutual benefit societies, all of them are or fraternal benefit societies, they're all lumped under that, all right? It says mutual benefit societies. In the early days of the Republic, the antebellum Negro Convention movement, what does the word antebellum mean? Antebellum? Bellum means war, bell in Latin means war, antebellum means before the war, right? Antebellum Negro Convention movement, the Negro colonization schemes of the 19th century, Du Bois's concept of Pan-Africanism, Booker T. Washington's advocacy of race pride, self-help and racial solidarity, the Harlem Renaissance and the Garvey movement. Right? It says the decade after World War I, which saw the militant, race-proud, quote, new Negro, the relatively widespread theory of retaliatory violence, and the high tide of the Negro support of Negro business ideology. So this whole, this whole thing of, we have to open business, we have to support each other's business, that rap is not new. That goes back to the time of the 20s, which they've cataloged through the whole time, okay? Exhibits striking parallels with the 1960s. Similarly, there are striking parallels between both of these periods and the late 1840s and 1850s when ideologies of self-help, racial solidarity, separatism, and nationalism, and the advocacy of organized rebellion were widespread. The theme of retaliatory violence is hardly new for American Negroes. Most racial disorders in American history until recent years were characterized by, quote unquote, this is their language, white attacks on Negroes. But Negroes retaliated violently during Reconstruction just after World War I and in the last 4 years. We're not talking about that already. How during the Reconstruction period we were retaliating violently. They give you a Nat Turner here and there, right? But it was going down. Since black power rhetoric and ideology actually express a lack of power. Now think about Jesus and Lamas's conversation about the nature of power, all right? It says, the slogan emerged when the Negro protest movement was slowing down, when it was finding increasing resistance to its changing goals, when it discovered that nonviolent direct action was no more a panacea than legal action, when CORE and SNCC were declining in terms of activity, membership and financial support. The combination of circumstances provoked anger deepened by impotence. Powerless to make any fundamental changes in life of the masses, powerless, that is, to compel white America to make those changes, many advocates of black power have retreated into an unreal world where they see an outnumbered and poverty-stricken minority organizing itself independently of whites and creating sufficient power to force white America to grant its demands. Why do they call it the unreal world? Why are they saying that basically Asiatics, it will almost be impossible for Asiatics to separate from Europeans and govern their own world? Keep in mind, they call them the Negroes. You don't have the principles of government. How are you going to break away? Again, given our son, Elijah Muhammad, when you read Message to the Black Man, when he did talk about the concept of separation, he said that, he said, we want to separate, we want a territory of our own. He said, but we want you to, to teach us agriculture, so on and so forth, provide us with the equipment and all that type of stuff that we need to grow our own food and all that type of stuff for a period of 25 years. After that, cut us off. Because he knew en masse, most of our people don't know how to feed ourselves. Right? So if you shut off Kroger and Publix, how you going to eat? How many people got babies? Nieces, nephews, little children somewhere around? Or even yourself, you're going to get hungry, right? You work hard, you're going to get hungry. How you going to eat? Exactly. We want to be free, but how do we eat? Right? So that's their position right there. To date, the evidence suggests that the situation is much like that of the 1840s, when a small group of intellectuals advocated slave insurrections, but stopped short of organizing them. Okay? The black power advocates of today consciously feel that they are the most militant group in the Negro protest movement. Yet they have retreated from a direct confrontation with American society on the issue of integration, and by preaching separatism, unconsciously functioned as an accommodation to white racism. Much of their economic program, as well as their interest in Negro history, self-help, racial solidarity, and separation, is reminiscent of Booker T. Washington. The rhetoric is different, but the programs are remarkably similar. The meaning. By 1967, whites could point to the demise of slavery, the decline of illiteracy among Negroes, the legal protection provided by the constitutional amendments and the civil rights legislation, and the growing size of the Negro middle class. Whites would call it Negro progress from slavery to freedom towards equality. Negroes could point to the doctrine of white supremacy, its widespread acceptance, its persistence after emancipation, and its influence on the definition of the place of Negroes in American life. They could point to their long fight for full citizenship when they had active opposition from most of the white population and little or no support from the government. They could see progress towards equality accompanied by bitter resistance. Perhaps most of all, they could feel the persistent, pervasive racism that kept them in inferior segregated schools, restricted them to ghettos, barred them from fair employment, provided double standards in court of justice, inflicted bodily harm on children, and blighted their lives with a sense of hopelessness and despair. That's around 1967. What's different from now? In all of this, and in the context of professed ideals, Negroes will find more retrogression than progress, more rejection than acceptance. Until the middle 20th century, the course of Negro protest movements in the United States, except for slave revolts, was based in cities in the North, where Negroes enjoyed sufficient freedom to mount a sustained protest. It was in the cities, North and South, that Negroes had their greatest independence and mobility. It was natural, therefore, for quote-unquote black protest movements to be urban-based, and until the last dozen years or so, limited to the North. As Negroes migrated from the South, the mounting strength of their votes in the northern cities became a vital element in drawing the federal government into defense of the civil rights of Southern Negroes. So you know how people had that, voting don't matter thing? But here's the federal government telling you it was because of the vote that forced the hand of the federal government to move. Islam?
Islam.
Right? Real quick, by the way, when you receive a felony, what's the first things they take away from you? And your right to bear arms. Now, if they weren't important, all right? It says white rural Negroes today face great racial problems. The major unsolved questions that touch the core of Negro life stem from the discrimination embedded in urban housing, employment, and education. 2 more paragraphs. Over the years, the character of the Negro protest has changed. Originally, it was a white liberal and Negro upper class movement aimed at securing the constitutional rights of Negroes through propaganda, lawsuits, and legislation. In recent years, the emphasis in tactics shifted first to direct action and then, among the most militant, to the rhetoric of black power, quote unquote. They put it in quotation marks. The role of white liberals declined as Negroes came to direct the struggle. At the same time, the Negro protest movement became more of a mass movement with increasing participation from the working classes. As these changes were occurring, and while substantial progress was being made to secure the constitutional rights for the Negroes, the goals of the movement were broadened. Protest groups now demand special effort to overcome the Negroes' poverty and cultural deprivation. Cultural deprivation. Negro don't have a culture. They're telling you that, right? Conditions that cannot be erased simply by ensuring constitutional rights. So before, because, okay, I make you a citizen, right? But you don't have a national descent. You don't have a line to trace your best self back so you can know. So how do you enact the rights of a citizen? Because in America, all citizens have pedigrees. All citizens have a flag they can point to, such as this, which unfolds a whole amount of history, right? So if I just give you this, with no background of what use is it? That's why our people say, oh, that flag ain't worth nothing. Because you're supposed to be flying dual flags in this nation. Islam? Right? If we were in a nation that was solely run by us, 4 of them by us, then we could just fly this. Islam? Right? But because this is becoming an immigrant nation, because it's under a concept of republic, and because there's multiple nations that live here, every nation has carved out a piece of this for themselves. And we must do the same. Islam? The central thrust, last paragraph, the central thrust of Negro protests in the current period has aimed at the inclusion of Negroes in American society on the basis of full equality rather than at a fundamental transformation of American institutions. Okay? So that so-called white privilege, it seems to be embedded in the actual institutions, whether, I don't care where you go, whether it's, in the, private or public sector, it's there, right? So in order to reform that, you have to be yourself and no one else, and be a full active citizen. If not, then you just sit back and complain, all right? It says there have been elements calling for a revolutionary overthrow of the American social system for a complete withdrawal of Negroes from American society. But these solutions have had little popular support. Negro protest, for the most part, has been firmly rooted in the basic values of American society, seeking not their destruction, but their fulfillment. Islam, right? Now, who's the first nation to recognize the 13 colonies as an independent nation? Morocco. That means the initial documents they set forth in order to free themselves from British tyranny, right, had to have been recognized by the Moors. Islam, that's simple logic, right? All right? So they had a doctrine that they called the Declaration of Independence. Islam? Has anyone ever read the Declaration of Independence? Okay, pull it back out, blow the dust off. In there, there's a there's a sentence that says, governments long established, basically, I'm gonna have to paraphrase. I don't like paraphrasing. Governments long established basically should not be changed for light and transient causes. There we go. All right? So in other words, what does that mean? So in order, and right after that, they started going in and listing the trail of abuses, that the king of, England at that time had done to them, that they felt as though they had to overthrow him. All right? So the whole thing. So now, Prophet Noble Ali comes and tells you, to proclaim your nationality. Right? When you proclaim your nationality, on the nationality card, the Moorish Constitution of America says, I am a citizen of the USA, Noble Drew Ali, the Prophet. Islam? Right? So you're proclaiming your American citizenship. Full American citizenship. Islam? So he didn't put you outside the government. He put you in the government as an active part. Prophet Noble Drew Ali being a prophet, he gives prophecies about America. Right? Elijah Muhammad's fall of America wasn't the first time that had been said. Noble Drew Ali said that, this government being prepared by most genius citizens, so on and so forth. He said, if the above things, and I think the Moor just demonstrated that, if the above statements, are carried out, this will be one of the most prosperous nations in the world. But is a powerful word. In Arabic, it's walakin, right, which means but. But if these are not carried out, right, by the citizens and my people, right, the worst is yet to come, right? And that being a prophecy, it has come to pass, and now we are in the worst is yet to come. It's here now, okay? We don't want to be citizens, people. I am no citizen, I am no, okay.
Right.
Saudi Arabia just gave citizenship to a robot.
That's right.
Yes,
What's the robot's name?
Stop it!
Pull it up right now.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
on YouTube. Pull the video up,
Yeah, I can't remember the name.
If you type in on YouTube, Saudi citizen robot, it'll come up. There's a company that's producing this particular line of robots. Because there's other ones. Brother Sareem, if you catch him after class, he'll show you a military class on robots. They're here. They're already here, right? So they're asking her, they were doing like an interview with the robot. If you want the video I'm talking about. So they're asking her, well, what do you think about people? Oh, well, they answer, well, people, I'm not worried about what people are saying, I'm paraphrasing. I'm not worried about what people are saying because humans are easily programmable. That's what the robot said about us. Humans are easily programmable. Or what about this movie, that movie, whatever. Blade Runner, I think you mentioned was the movie. So we have to go back and watch that to see how that happened, right? But said, but what about in Blade Runner? It's like, Hollywood. This is the robot. Oh, Hollywood, huh? So every time you made a movie reference, so there you go with the Hollywood again, and it's making expression. All of that, right? Then they ask it, well, basically she answered something like, she made a statement, something saying basically that, I'm okay with humans as long as, we get along, and left it there. But if we don't get along, then what? She didn't get to that, right? So the interviewer was like, wow, that was interesting. I've never done an interview like that or whatever. By the way, Sophia, I don't know if you've shut down or not because it's still sitting there at the podium, right? But, I have some news for you. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has, will be making you the first robot that will become a citizen of Saudi Arabia. When it comes out of its, sleep, how you put your computer to sleep. Mm-hmm. So it woke back up, right? I am so thankful to be a citizen of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now let's get this straight. Now I've been to Saudi Arabia. It's illegal for women, human women, to drive in Saudi Arabia. It's illegal. You can't do it. If a woman in Saudi Arabia comes out undressed, she can be arrested, and her husband has to come and get her and take her back home, right? So she has second to maybe third class citizenship as a human in Saudi Arabia, but a robot has full citizenship. That's the electrified age that we're in right now. You see what I'm saying? So, this whole thing about us, oh, they're not going to get rid of us because, we built this country and they'll always need us. You're obsolete now. You're completely obsolete. They have a programmable thing. And then Brother Serene just showed me before I left. It's troubled my spirit very badly. Thank you, Brother Serene. That robot, again, whose name is Sophia, and Sophia means wisdom. It said, there's an article he showed me, said, so robot has 7 siblings. So it's 8 of them, right? That we know about, that they're telling us about. There's another interview where Audi has a new car that's out, I think it's called the A4. And the A4 drives itself, right? So the person, there's a guy, he's in the car, he's behind the wheel, but he's sitting like this because the car's driving itself. And Sophia, same Saudi citizen, is sitting on the passenger side having a full-on conversation with the guy in a car that's driving itself. Most times, look, y'all have to pardon me sometimes when I get behind this podium and I get on those rants, and I be hard on the Moors. Y'all have to forgive me, but I just see what's coming down the road. And I don't really see us included. Not that I'm saying we should be included in their society. I'm talking about alive on earth. You see what I'm saying? The prophet told us to honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days will be longer upon the earth land, which the Lord thy God alive given thee. Islam? So we're not honoring our mothers and fathers, and our days are becoming shorter. Islam? And it's a very artificial world that's upon us now. You see? So, and again, one more, another thing I'd like to leave you with before I lower the meeting, before I open the floor for questions, is the fact that when you look at, everything that was laid out by the prophet, right? He came to a people who had everything stripped from them. And he sought to, because right now, you are a new version of your forefathers, right? So all the ancient hatreds that your forefathers had, technically you've forgotten. You picked up new hatreds, right? We hate for new reasons now, right? But the old reasons for why we used to go, at one another is kind of wiped clean. That slate is wiped clean, right? So he came to these people and gave them a new set of principles and virtues so they may, govern themselves accordingly, right? In the process of doing that, right, somewhere along the line we dropped the ball because we're supposed to be a lot further than we are now, right? I have conversations with free nationals all over the planet via Facebook. And there's one brother I'm in tune with. He lives in California, but he's of Cambodian national descent from Cambodia. And, he was just like, a lot of the prophecies from the prophet Noble Ali are very similar to the prophecies that my grandparents or even the Buddhist monks in Cambodia talk about all the time, right? So there's a group of people called the, in Cambodia, there's a group of people called the Khem people, right? We talk about Kemet, right? But there's the Khem people. I said, well, can you send me a picture of, like the statues of the Khem people? And he sends me a statue, and it's a brother with the wide nose, thick lips, and a fez on. He said, that's the first thing that made me start paying attention to y'all, was that headdress. Because I saw it as a little boy growing up all the time in Cambodia, right? So I saw the fez, recognized it, signs and symbols for the conscious mind, right? And start following you guys. Every time a Moor would post something, I would, try to follow it. And, he was basically saying that, this is a powerful legacy that was passed to us, and I'm starting to realize that it's global. You understand what I'm saying? I had a brother from Ghana. If you're on Facebook, look up Brother Nasiru Wonder, Nasiru Wonder. This brother is a very sincere brother. Muslim brother, a member of the Tijani Sufi order. And the brother, he hit me today. He said, Islam Grand Sheikh, he said, is there any audio version of the Holy Quran, of the Most Science Temple of America? I said, definitely, praise Allah. Just contact Brother Lasana Tunica Hill on Facebook and, you'll have it. He was like, praise Allah. He said, basically, I want to spread it over here in Ghana. Right? So you have foreign nationals that are picking up the works of your prophet. And one, but see, you got to remember, in their eyes, we're supposed to be much further. Like we're here, so they don't know, our internal problems, right? Nor do we talk about them behind the podium or on camera, right? But the point is that, the open admission, because you have to admit this so you can cure it, is that we're supposed to be a lot further. You know what I mean? So we have to dig deeper, and find, the prophet said he took and mended the broken wires, right? We have to, go back and find how those wires, if he mended them, how they came back unloosened, and how we're still not connecting to one another. All right? And once we have that, then we can take in all the great lifting program that he, revealed to us, then we can initiate that, and get this thing going. Right? But it makes no sense to try to jumpstart stuff without standing on the instruction, because we'll get further down the road and it'll implode and destroy something. Right? So you have to have a means of conflict resolution. So when we fall out during nation building, because it happens, right? It happens, right? It happens amongst other nations of people, but you won't see it. When the Mexicans fall out, you're not gonna see that. They might close the door, put the shades down, and beat each other half to death. But when they come out the door, they come out as brothers, right? So when you have, a nationality, that quality of character that arises from the fact of a person belonging to a nation, a state, very beautiful words, right? But that quality of character, right? And you demonstrate quality and character, and people can see that you belong to a nation or state because of how you conduct yourself. Islam, that's when people will want to be a part of what you are part of.
Yes.
Right? Nobody wants to join something that's, that abounds in problems. They can stay in the world for that.
Right.
Islam, so, and it has to get past my ears before it gets to yours. You see what I'm saying? So, we all have to do that self-check, and see, okay, well, what can I do more? Yeah, I'm tired. Yeah, my finances is messed up. Yeah, this and that. You know what I'm saying? I'll use myself because I can't speak about nobody else. We have this, this business right here is doing well. But in the barbering trade, it's ebb and flow. And sometimes where it's popping, other times it's slow, right? And those slow times, you might see I might be like Islam, but my eyes will be like this, kind of, because I'm trying to figure out where it's going to come from. But that, that faith in Allah, because I've seen it before. You keep your hands to the plow, keep working, it's going to manifest, right? But you got to put the work in. If you don't put the work in, it's not going to, when it's your turn to come up for a trial, universe won't balance not. What did you put in? Islam? Right? At this point, I'll open the floor for questions. Are there any questions, especially from our visitors?
How about you?
Second? How do you join? Well, what do you know about the More Science Temple of America?
What you just taught me.
Wow. Okay. What we can do is, Sister Lamani, do you have an application? Okay. Here's what we can do. Are you from Atlanta?
I live here.
You live here. Okay. What we can do is we can make sure you get the application, but you can't. We have a protocol in place, and the protocol is that you must attend at least 3 meetings before you can join. And the reason why is because we want to make sure that you have a complete comprehension of this work. And see, one of the greatest misnomers is that you can be Moorish American by yourself. That's not what this is. Like, in other words, you notice there's certain cultural groups that when we think of them in a plurality. Right? So very rarely do you say the Jew. Usually it's the Jews.
Oh,
The Mexicans, them. Right, the Koreans and them. You see what I'm saying? But and that's what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, this beautiful man right here. He came to get us into thinking as a group economics, group education, group healthcare, group everything. You see? But why I said that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali cannot be found on the internet is because there's these thieves and robbers, and this is what Noble Drew Ali called them. Thieves and robbers who get you to think that you can be a sovereign of your own. The word sovereign, we're not against the word sovereign. It's a beautiful word. You know, Allah is the sovereign of all sovereigns. He has the attribute which is Maliki al-Mulki, which is the sovereign of all sovereigns. But a sovereign is an absolute ruler, right? So that which you're sovereign over, you're in absolute control over. Example, you can't be a sovereign and owe Georgia power. Can't be a sovereign and you don't control the water that's under your feet. Can't be a sovereign and you don't control the roads, this, that. You understand what I'm saying? All right? And sovereignty in a republic, first of all, sovereignty, right? I'm doing this more so for the camera, for anybody else who can benefit from it. Sovereignty is a mode, you know, that's found under a monarchy, not a republic. Okay? Because in a republic you have citizens. In a monarchy you have subjects. Okay? In a monarchy, sovereignty is held in one person who is the king, the queen, the sultan, the Mansa, like Mansa Musa or something, right? In a republic, the sovereignty is held, amongst the group of citizens, right, who through representative government, right, demonstrate their will by way of the vote. You see? So when you become a Moorish American, you're expected to have a voter registration card and cast your vote, and that vote again, we try to get ones to understand. We should vote as a block, as a group, not as individuals. You're voting for this one. Example, I had some Moors come to me, and they wanted to try to get, what's the European? Mary Norwood, the one that's with the runoff now for the mayoral race in Atlanta. They wanted to get Mary Norwood to come to Temple number 19 and speak. I see the nose, I see the head shaking now. Let me finish it. They come. I can't even finish, it's too crazy. It's crazy. But, because first of all, I was like, why our temple? Why are you going to pick us to put that on? To overthrow 40 years of Asiatic marriage? Right? All right, whatever. But the point is that, because their justification was, well, the sister, Keisha Bottoms. Well, she's a puppet of Kasim Reed, and, if she gets in, she's going to be doing the same thing Reed was doing. Still thinking like the victim. Because if you're an organized body politic, she becomes beholden to your group. Yes. But problem is, if you don't have an organized body politic and a war chest, what is a war chest? Money. Oh, excuse me, political capital. Money. You understand what I'm saying? You won't be able to affect any of these things. And that's why Noble Ali was moving the way he did. I mean, for example, when you get up, you can see some of the pictures down here, but you can see the Moors. It was always, when you saw the Moors under the Prophet, when he put the call out, 5,000, 3,000, they come out on his word, who we vote for. And they cast that vote, and then, the European politicians look at that and they were courting the Prophet. There's a picture of the Prophet, Noble Ali, you'll see him. He's on his throne, what we call the vacant chair now. But he's on the throne, and then, next to him he has like Oscar the Priest, who was like House of Representatives. You got Jesse Benga, Benga State Bank, one of the Asiatic banks back then. He has a banker in the audience. Other politicians, so on and so forth. And they're all sitting upright and legs crossed and to be next to the Prophet, right? But the Prophet's on the throne, the Prophet's like, they here to see me, I ain't here to see them. You know what I'm saying? Because he understood the nature of power. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, if you're doing what you're supposed to, politicians will court you. You don't have to run them down. You understand what I'm saying? So, and I know this is a slow walk for this temple. You know what I mean? Because again, we're all coming from different clans and tribes, and most of the clans and tribes we come from were all anti-voting, right? So to get in that spirit of it's election time, we got to build it. And Allah knows there's been ones in this temple that have done the work to try to get ones to understand that. So we give honors to those ones, so who've done that, right? But for us to really get the Prophets program off the ground, we need people that's willing to work together as a group. You know what I'm saying? Right? So, relative to membership, in this great movement here, that's one of the things that we need you to know. You see what I'm saying? And the only way you can know, is that if you open all of the body of works of Prophet Noble Ali and everything he had to say about everything Moorish, right? And you become familiar with all of those things. Now, is that possible to do in 3 classes? No. But within 3 classes, you will have heard an expanse of different speakers, other than myself, and including myself, what our position is on these matters, right? Because we expect for ones that if we have laws that say do this, we expect ones to be in alignment with that. You right? Because there's no way in the world the outside groups that, you know, that we need political power from, right, will respect us if they look at us and we're not. You understand what I'm saying? You know, so that's the main thing about being a Moor, right? About being Moorish American, right? And also, as well, you know, because the whole title is Moorish American Muslim. So you have to understand what our divine creed is, and it's not an Arabian religion. You know, so that definitely takes more than 3 classes, but at least within the 3, you'll get used, you know, to the customary laws, natural laws, so on and so forth, right? So, but why I said, you know, I don't want you to walk out the door without the application in your hand, because I don't want you to get disheartened. Prophet Noble says we need a symbolic right. If you got to tack that boy up on your walls, you're like, I'm joining that. You understand what I'm saying? I want you to be able to do that. You see what I'm saying? I don't want you to walk out the door with nothing. I wanted to join, they wouldn't even let me join. I don't want you to have it. I want you to have it. Now, we want you to join. But when you put your name on that dotted line, right, we want you to understand full faith and conviction why you're doing it, so that way you can become a part of every part. Does that make sense?
I got you.
Praise Allah. You have any other questions? Floor is open once again. Questions, comments, concerns, or statements? No? And with that, I'll lower the meeting. Islam, boys? Draw from the divine warning from the prophets, also known as a warning from the prophet to be read in every meeting. Moore Science Temple of America, Noble Drew Ali founder, home office, Chicago, Illinois, March 11, 1929. A warning from the prophet to be read in every meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical and agitating speech while on their jobs, homes, or on the public streets. We advocate peace and not destruction. Stop trying out your cards with the Europeans, for it causes confusion. There has been much confusion caused by members trying out their cards. The cards are for your salvation. Failure of obeying my orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members that seek to hold malicious feelings towards the temple or the prophet, or to violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet, and if they lose confidence in their prophet, give up your card and button, cease wearing your turban or fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. For this is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet, Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet is sending out a divine plea to all true Moorish Americans that they may do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Peace. Noble Drew Ali. Islam? Islam. Islam? Islam. 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 All praises are truly due to Allah, the highest of honors, to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I want to thank all who are present tonight for suffering through all the yawns. I saw the yawns. I saw a couple nodding. It's all right. We got through it. I'm about to release you. All right? But it's necessary. It's mandatory we get this work done. And it's mandatory. Prophet didn't make it optional for us to attend our meetings. He made it mandatory. To attend your meetings is law, right? And the reason why, because each week we are practicing government. We have to get this in you so it becomes a part of your very DNA, right? How many people have ever been to a city council meeting? Okay. If you were ever called by your body politic or your civil society or your group to demonstrate at city council, there's a body of order that runs the city council meeting. Everybody familiar with that? Anybody know what that's called? That body of order that runs that? It's called Robert's Rules of Order. Okay? You know, in the Moore Science Temple of America, you know, how it's supposed to go. Before you give your statement, before you speak from the groves, you know, you raise your hand, you recognize and you stand. I rise, giving all praise to Allah, the highest of honors to his holy and divine prophet, Noble Drew Ali, and then the grand Sheik the chairman recognizes you and then you speak. That I rise, you find that in city council, you find that in the state legislature, you find that in the U.S. Capitol building, right? Because Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave you a customary law preparing you to deal in the government. Islam, we have times where we demonstrate, you know, holy garb, right? We have other times where we demonstrate suit and tie, briefcase, business attire. Islam, because, you know, in other words, holy garment does not fit every occasion, right? Unless you're in power. In other words, the Saudis can come to a government meeting with flowing robes on because they're pulling out 500 million barrels of oil a day. When you got it like that, you come dressed however you want to me, right? Until you get there, right? Govern yourself accordingly, right? So you see the prophet demonstrate all kinds of degrees. If you look at, again, if you look at this 1928 convention picture, on there you got the headdress known as the Shal Ikal or the Shal Nukutra. You got, what did you see the Saudi Arabians wear? That one. On here you have the Namuz headdress that the ancient pharaohs used to wear, right? You have that. You got the fez, you got the turban, you got all different aspects of the legacies of our forefathers. And he demonstrated it through a symbolic rite, showing you that all of that is your birthright, right? But there's a time for that, and there's other times you see him demonstrating that soon, right? Because he's working his political degrees or his business. So what did the prophet say? That nothing is needed more by us than anything. What was that thing? Speak up. Economic power, economic security, which is finance. You see what I'm saying? But that finance on that level can only be done if it's group economics. Where you put yourself in a position where you're able to circulate your dollar. Then you're only able to do that when you live around one another. The prophet said more should live around one another, right? So we can't unify our dollars and we live all over the place, right? So at some point, it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, it might not even be next week, right? But at some point, we're going to have to identify an area, right? And we're going to have to lock that area down. Anything that comes in and out that area has more sanctioning. So we're not having no drugs being sold in there. Ain't no sister being prostituted in that area. It's totally clean and according to our laws. Islam? And it sounds like something that can't be done, but just go to any one of these areas. Beautiful highway, go to the areas where the Brazilians are demonstrating. You can't bring that stuff in there. Islam? They come in liquor stores and strip clubs, stuff like that. They will they'll wear you out at the zoning meeting. And the plan in the zoning meeting is where they block you at. You ever try to open a business and didn't get the sanctioning from Sister Lamada? She got there. If you want to know that degree, her and Brother Raphael mastered that demonstration, right? Because you got to win the people before you go and set up. We learned that there, didn't we, sister? That's not a game. This thing is serious. And that was a bunch of elders. They weren't playing. Look, we all elders who live here. We don't want y'all young people up here. Hippity hoppity. We don't want all that stuff. But and I went through that. You know what I'm saying? When you tried to establish the temple in East Point, Washington Road area. We went through the same thing. They wore us out as the council. And that's when we started learning, like, okay, prophet, we knew you were right, but now we know you're right. Islam. So, these are, this is all a part of the Great Uplifting Program. And we need ones with the pioneering spirit, right, to help us to get the Prophet Nobles Rally established in the city of Atlanta. Allah knows our people in Atlanta need Prophet Nobles Rally. Islam. All right. Any last questions, concerns, or statements? With that, we'll close the meeting. Everyone, please rise. Face the east, which is right ahead of you. We will close with prayer, as is the tradition of our Moorish American Muslim folk. Please hold your feet at a 45-degree angle, standing on your square. Your heels will be touching like this. Raise 5 fingers on your left, 2 fingers on your right, invoking the sacred presence of the 70 Elohim that created everything that ever was, is, or evermore shall be. Please repeat after me. And for our visitors, please adopt the position of prayer. It's comfortable for you to give him praise to our collective Creator. Please repeat after me. Allah, the Father of the universe, the Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation, by night and by day. Through his holy prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. Islam, Lord. Praise Allah.